We're about to unravel one of the most chilling mysteries in modern aviation. It's a story that, well, it begins with this eerie silence from 34,000 feet up, and it ends in a tragedy that was completely preventable. It just goes to show how a handful of small mistakes can combine to create an absolute catastrophe.
Just try to imagine this for a second. A modern passenger jet flying perfectly on autopilot high above Europe, but inside, total silence. No communication, no response, not a single sign of life. 121 souls on board, and they're completely unreachable.
So what happened on Helios Flight 522? That's the question that absolutely baffled air traffic controllers and military pilots back on August 14, 2005. And you know what? It's the very question we're going to answer in this explainer. Peace by Harrowing Peace.
For almost 2 hours, Helios Flight 522 just circled silently over Athens. Now, on the ground, confusion really quickly turned to fear. With zero contact, authorities had to consider the worst-case scenario, a hijacking or maybe even a terror plot.
So the Greek Air Force scrambles a couple of F-16s to go investigate, and what their pilots witnessed, it was the stuff of nightmares. As they flew right alongside the Boeing 737, they reported a scene that was just truly haunting. The captain's seat was completely empty, the co-pilot was slumped over unconscious, and in the passenger cabin, you had oxygen masks down everywhere, but every single passenger was just still, lifeless in their seats.
To really understand how this ghost flight came to be, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Just a few hours earlier, it was a beautiful summer morning at Larnaca Airport in Cyprus. It was supposed to be a totally routine flight to Prague for 121 people. Now, the flight was in the hands of a very experienced crew, but there were some signs of friction. The first officer had actually mentioned the captain's demanding style before, and critically, his training records noted an occasional difficulty with checklist procedures, a detail that seemed so minor but was about to have absolutely devastating consequences.
As the plane took off, everything seemed perfectly normal, but a deadly chain reaction was already in motion. You see, aviation safety is built on all these layers of defense. But on this flight, the holes in those layers were about to line up perfectly, starting with one single forgotten switch. So as the aircraft climbed through 12,000 feet, this loud, persistent alarm just starts blaring through the cockpit. It was the first clear sign that something was seriously wrong. But in their confusion, the pilots were about to make a catastrophic mistake.
Okay, this right here, this was the heart of the disaster. The pilots heard that alarm and they assumed it was a takeoff configuration warning, an alert that makes absolutely no sense when you're already in the air. But in reality, it was the cabin altitude warning, signaling a critical loss of cabin pressure and oxygen. They were trying to solve the completely wrong problem.
The captain actually radioed maintenance on the ground, asking about circuit breakers for cooling fans, still convinced it was a configuration thing. The ground engineer, remembering he had just done a pressurization test, asked the one question that could have saved them all. But the captain, his mind already laser-focused on the wrong issue, just repeated his question about the circuit breakers. That was it. The last chance to avert disaster was gone.
Shortly after that final radio call, all communication was lost. The plane just kept going on autopilot, a silent ghost ship flying for hours. And then, as the F-16 pilots watched in disbelief, something unbelievable happened.
The fighter pilots just stared. A figure suddenly appeared in the cockpit and sat down in the captain's empty seat. After hours of nothing but silence and stillness, it was the first sign of life they had seen. The cockpit voice recorder later picked up 5 desperate Mayday calls. But here's the real tragedy. They were never actually transmitted. The person in the cockpit was trying to call for help, but in the chaos, the radio's transmit button was never pushed.
And then, the inevitable happened. The left engine flamed out from lack of fuel, which caused the plane to bank sharply and start descending. Just moments later, the right engine also went silent. The ghost flight's 2-hour journey ended tragically, crashing into a hillside, leaving no survivors.
So, what was the real cause? As investigators started piecing together the evidence, they found the truth hidden in a single switch, and a silent, invisible killer that had crept its way through the entire cabin.
The key to this whole mystery is a condition called hypoxia. When you're deprived of oxygen at high altitude, your brain's function just deteriorates, and fast. Judgment gets cloudy, simple tasks become impossible, and unconsciousness follows in minutes. The pilots weren't incompetent, they were medically incapacitated.
This right here shows the entire chain of failure perfectly. It started with a simple maintenance error. That pressurization switch was left on manual. Then, the next domino, a pre-flight miss. The pilots failed to catch it during their checks. This led directly to the alarm confusion, mistaking it for a takeoff warning. And finally, as they were trying to solve the wrong problem, hypoxia set in, incapacitating them and turning their jet into a ghost flight.
So who was that mysterious figure in the cockpit? He was a hero, a flight attendant named Andreas Prodomou, who also happened to have a commercial pilot's license. Investigators believe he used a portable oxygen bottle to stay conscious. He made this valiant last-ditch effort to save the plane. But he wasn't rated to fly a 737, and by the time he got to the controls, it was already just too late.
The crash of Helios 522 was a devastating loss, and it was caused by a chain of totally preventable human errors. But from this awful tragedy, the entire aviation industry learned some critical lessons to help make sure this would never, ever happen again. Yeah, the investigation's findings led directly to real safety improvements across the industry. Pre-flight checklists were redesigned to make that pressurization switch basically impossible to miss. And pilot training all over the world was enhanced to help them better distinguish between these critical and sometimes confusing cockpit warnings.
The story of Helios 522 is just such a stark reminder of what they call the Swiss cheese model of accidents, where all these little holes in your layers of defense line up perfectly to let a disaster through. It really leaves you with a sobering thought, doesn't it? How often in any complex system does a catastrophe begin with a single, seemingly minor human error?